Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future stories. Today, we're diving into the story of Eleanor, a woman who discovered that the foundation of her life was built on a lie. Eleanor Vance had always believed her marriage was a structure of her own design, meticulously planned, perfectly executed, and built to withstand anything. At 38, a respected architect in Boston, she thought she had it all: a thriving career, a beautiful brownstone she'd personally renovated from a decaying shell into a beacon of minimalist warmth, and a 12-year marriage to Dr. Maya Sharma, a woman she considered the central pillar of her existence. Their life was a carefully curated collection of shared rituals: Sunday mornings with the Times and strong coffee, autumn trips to Vermont, the comfortable silence of two people who knew each other's thoughts. Eleanor had built their life with the same precision she brought to her blueprints, assuming every joint was sound, every angle true. She had believed, with the unshakable certainty of a master builder, that their foundation was solid rock. Until a Tuesday evening in October, when a single, casual glance at a shared device brought the entire edifice crashing down around her. Everything she had meticulously constructed, every belief she held about love and loyalty, was reduced to rubble in the space of a single heartbeat. The first signs of seismic instability had been subtle, hairline fractures she had willfully ignored. For the past 6 months, Maya had been distant, a subtle shift in her emotional tectonics that Eleanor had attributed to professional stress. Maya, a brilliant art history professor at the university, was consumed by a new research project, a deep dive into the semiotics of protest art, a project she was co-authoring with her star graduate student, a woman named Chloe. The name Chloe had begun to populate their dinner conversations, a recurring character in Maya's daily narrative. It was always "Chloe and I made a breakthrough today," or "Chloe found the most incredible archival photo." Eleanor, supportive and trusting, had pictured a mousy, academic type, all thick glasses and earnest passion. She had even hosted them for dinner once, and found Chloe to be sharp, ambitious, and unnervingly confident, her gaze lingering on Maya a moment too long. Eleanor had dismissed the flicker of unease as petty jealousy, a failing on her part. She was supposed to be the secure, successful wife, not a creature of baseless suspicion. Maya's phone, once a shared piece of household technology left casually on the kitchen counter, had become an extension of her body, clutched in her hand or placed screen down with a new, almost aggressive intentionality. Late nights at the university library became more frequent, explained away with talk of deadlines and collaborative intensity. When Eleanor, feeling the growing distance between them, would reach for her in bed, Maya would often feign sleep or murmur about being exhausted. She started using a new vocabulary, peppered with terms that felt both hollow and weaponized. She spoke of her personal growth journey, of needing to hold space for her own ambitions, of feeling a need to decentre the partnership to find her authentic self. Eleanor, a pragmatist who dealt in concrete and steel, found the language slippery and frustrating. She tried to understand, to be the supportive partner she had always been, suggesting they take a vacation, or even just a weekend away to reconnect. Maya would always agree in principle, a vague, airy promise of soon, but the dates were never set, the plans never made. Eleanor told herself this was just a phase, the natural ebb and flow of a long-term relationship. She was an architect. She knew that even the strongest structures had to allow for a certain amount of flex. She had simply miscalculated the load. The discovery was not dramatic, not a cinematic confrontation in a rain-soaked street. It was quiet, mundane, and all the more brutal for it. Eleanor was planning to make coq au vin for dinner, a complicated, slow-cooked dish that she and Maya both loved. She reached for the shared family iPad that lived on the kitchen island, intending to look up a specific step in the recipe. The screen lit up with the last app Maya had been using, the university's internal messaging client. And at the top of the screen, a new message notification glowed, a banner of pure devastation from Chloe R. It read, simply, Can't stop thinking about last night, my love. You are magnificent. The term of endearment, my love, was a wrecking ball. It was Maya's name for Eleanor. For a long moment, Eleanor simply stared at the screen, her mind refusing to process the information. The air in her beautifully designed, open-plan kitchen suddenly felt thick and unbreathable. A cold dread, heavy and metallic, settled in her stomach, and the world seemed to tilt on its axis. Her first, ridiculous thought was for the chicken defrosting on the counter. There would be no cocoa vin tonight. Her hands, usually so steady as they drafted complex structural plans, began to tremble. The architect in her, the part of her that demanded evidence and understood the importance of a solid case, took over from the shattered wife. With a chilling, almost supernatural calm, she tapped the notification. It opened a universe of betrayal. A 6-month history of a passionate, all-consuming affair, documented in excruciating detail. There were hundreds of messages. Declarations of love that mirrored words Maya had once spoken to her. Plans for secret weekends away, disguised as academic conferences. Explicit descriptions of their physical intimacy, written in prose that made Eleanor physically ill. But the worst part, the part that truly broke her, was the way they spoke about her. Maya, had written reams about how trapped she felt, describing Eleanor as predictable, emotionally draining, and clueless. Chloe, in turn, offered sycophantic praise for Maya's bravery in staying in such a stifling environment. They had built an entire narrative where Maya was the victim and Eleanor was the warden of her domestic prison. Eleanor read a message from just 2 weeks prior, sent while Eleanor was in Chicago accepting a prestigious design award. Maya had written, "She's on stage accepting some award, probably talking about structural integrity. The irony is staggering. I'm counting the seconds until I can be back in your arms." Eleanor felt a wave of nausea, so profound she had to grip the marble countertop to keep from falling. She spent the next hour working with methodical precision, her heart a cold, hard stone in her chest. She screenshotted every conversation, every photo they'd exchanged, every pet name, every lie. She meticulously airdropped the mountain of evidence to her personal laptop and phone, saved copies to a secure cloud drive, and then, with surgical care, deleted the message thread from the iPad and cleared its history. She placed the device back exactly where she had found it. She was no longer a wife. She was a prosecutor gathering evidence for an airtight case. She sat in the living room, in a leather armchair she had chosen for its clean lines and comfort, and waited. The house around her, once a sanctuary of their shared life, now felt alien, a stage set for a tragedy. Every object held a memory now tainted: the ceramic vase they'd bought in Santa Fe, the worn Persian rug from their first apartment, the framed photograph on the mantel of them on their wedding day, 2 smiling women who had no idea what was coming. When Maya walked in an hour later, she was humming, dropping her briefcase by the door with a casual thud. She was the picture of normalcy, of unsuspecting guilt. "Hey, Han, sorry I'm late," she said, her voice bright and untroubled. "Chloe and I completely lost track of time. We were having such a breakthrough with the Foucault chapter." She leaned in to kiss Eleanor, but Eleanor turned her head slightly, so the kiss landed on her cheek. Maya frowned, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked, her tone shifting from carefree to cautiously concerned. Eleanor didn't answer immediately. She let the silence stretch, letting Maya's anxiety build in the space between them. She watched as her wife's expression morphed from confusion to a dawning, defensive wariness. "How was your research?" Eleanor asked, her voice unnaturally level, devoid of all warmth. "Oh, Maya stammered, a little too quickly. "Productive. We're making some really great progress." It's very intense work, I'm sure it is," Eleanor said. She picked up her phone from the side table, her movements slow and deliberate. She unlocked it and tapped on the photo gallery, selecting the screenshot of Chloe's message. "Can't stop thinking about last night, my love." She slid the phone across the polished surface of the coffee table they had bought together. It stopped directly in front of Maya. The color drained from Maya's face. For a moment, she was utterly still, her eyes locked on the glowing screen. Then came the predictable, pathetic cascade of denial. What is this? It's not what you think, she began, her voice a high, reedy whisper. She's very effusive. It's a European thing. Eleanor stared at her, her expression unreadable. She said nothing. Her silence was more damning than any accusation. It gave Maya nothing to push against, no foothold for her lies. Okay, look, Maya continued, her voice gaining a desperate, pleading edge. Maybe there was a little flirtation. It was a mistake, a stupid, meaningless mistake. It meant nothing, Elle. You have to believe me. It was just a way of blowing off steam from the pressure of the project. Eleanor remained silent. She watched as Maya's defense began to crumble under the weight of that silence. I can explain, Maya insisted, her hands fluttering nervously. It's complicated. I've been going through a lot lately, feeling so lost. This whole tenure process it's been crushing me. And you've been so focused on your work, so distant, the blame shifting had begun. It was pathetic in its transparency. Eleanor finally spoke, her voice cutting through Maya's frantic excuses like a shard of glass. I have 6 months of your complicated explanations, Maya. Every message, every photo, every time you called me clueless while you were in bed with her. I have the receipts from the hotel you booked for your research trip to New York. I have all of it. Maya's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The performance was over. The mask had been ripped away. She looked smaller, stripped of her academic poise and casual confidence. She just stared at Eleanor, her eyes wide with panic. The realization that she was not just caught, but comprehensively, irrefutably exposed, was dawning on her. Alara, please, she finally whispered, the name a desperate plea. We can work through this. We can go to therapy. People make mistakes. I made a terrible mistake. But I love you. 12 years. Elle, don't throw away 12 years because of this. A bitter, humorless laugh escaped Eleanor's lips. You threw it away, Maya. You burned it to the ground and danced on the ashes. You did that every day for 6 months. Maya began to cry, fat, theatrical tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I'll end it with her right now. I'll quit the project. I'll do anything. Just please don't do this. Don't leave me. She reached across the table, her hand trembling, trying to touch Eleanor's. Eleanor pulled her own hand back as if from a flame. Maya recoiled, her face contorting in a mask of despair. You're being so cold, she sobbed. You're not even listening to me. You've changed, Alara, that was it. The final, outrageous absurdity. Eleanor looked at the weeping woman who had been her wife, the stranger sitting in her living room, and felt a profound, chilling clarity. The grief was still there, a vast, black ocean beneath the ice, but on the surface, there was only resolve. Yes, Eleanor said, her voice quiet, but carrying the immense weight of finality. I have the locks, the passwords, and my heart. The aftermath was a swift and brutal demolition. The morning after the confrontation, after Maya had packed a bag and left in a taxi, her face a mess of tears and disbelief, Eleanor met with the most formidable divorce attorney in Boston. She laid out the evidence, the printed screenshots, the hotel receipts, the timeline of deceit on the lawyer's mahogany desk. The attorney, a woman named Catherine Shaw, reviewed the materials with a grim, professional satisfaction. This is not a negotiation, Catherine said, her voice crisp. This is a controlled demolition. We have cause, professional misconduct, and a clear pattern of misappropriation of marital assets for the affair. She will get nothing more than what the law absolutely requires. The first move was a letter, sent not to Maya, but to the Dean of Arts and Sciences and the head of Human Resources at the university. It didn't mention Eleanor by name, but it came from Catherine Shaw's prestigious firm, outlining a potential ethics violation and a deeply inappropriate relationship between a faculty member and a graduate student under her supervision, complete with dates and locations that were impossible to refute. An internal investigation was launched immediately. Chloe, faced with the destruction of her academic career before it had even begun, folded completely. She gave a full confession, painting Maya as a predator who had taken advantage of her position. It was a cowardly, self-serving act, but Eleanor felt nothing but a cold, distant satisfaction. Within a month, Maya was suspended pending termination. Her tenure application was, of course, revoked. Her academic career was over. Socially, the fallout was just as swift. Their mutual friends, who had known them as a couple for over a decade, were horrified. Eleanor, when asked, simply sent a single, devastating screenshot to a few close friends. The news spread like wildfire. Maya's attempts to spin a narrative of a marriage that was already broken were met with contempt. Apologetic texts and calls flooded Eleanor's phone. Even Maya's own parents called Eleanor, weeping, to apologize for their daughter's behavior and to tell Eleanor they still loved her as their own. Eleanor moved through the divorce process with the detached efficiency of a project manager overseeing a demolition. The beautiful brownstone, the home she had poured her heart and soul into, was sold. It was a tainted space, every room haunted by the ghost of a lie. She found a sleek, modern apartment in the Seaport district, a glass and steel box with a panoramic view of the harbor. It was a space with no history, a blank page on which to write her next chapter. She channeled her grief and rage into her work, designing a new public library that was hailed by critics as a masterpiece of form and function. She won the commission, and the project became her salvation, a place to pour her need to build something true and lasting. The divorce was finalized in 8 months. The settlement was overwhelmingly in Eleanor's favor. She kept the majority of their assets, her retirement accounts untouched. Maya, now unemployed and academically disgraced, was left with her debts and her shame. Her desperate, pleading emails continued for a time, a litany of apologies, excuses, and frantic promises to change. Eleanor created a filter that sent them directly to the trash unread. She changed her number. She blocked her on every platform. She excised Maya from her life with the clean, precise cut of a surgeon. 2 years later, Eleanor was in Chicago, the keynote speaker at a national architectural conference. Her library project was complete, a celebrated new landmark for the city of Boston, and her firm had just been awarded a contract to design a new wing for the Art Institute of Chicago. She had relocated to the Windy City, embracing the brutalist beauty of its skyline and the vibrant energy of its streets. She was happy. It wasn't the blissful, naive happiness of her past, but something harder, more resilient, and infinitely more real. It was a peace she had earned. During a cocktail reception at a gallery in the West Loop, she saw her. Maya was across the crowded room, refilling wine glasses from a tray. She wasn't a professor anymore. She was a catering assistant. She looked older, tired, the vibrant confidence she once wore like a bespoke suit now replaced by a cheap, ill-fitting uniform of defeat. Their eyes met across the room. A flicker of panic, then shame, then a desperate hope crossed Maya's face. She set down her tray and started to move toward Eleanor, her mouth already forming the shape of an apology or a plea. Eleanor didn't flinch. She didn't look away. She simply held Maya's gaze for a moment, then gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, not of forgiveness, but of acknowledgement. A final closing of a chapter. Then she turned her back, walking away to join a group of colleagues who were laughing and congratulating her on her speech, leaving Maya standing alone in the wreckage of the life she had so carelessly destroyed. Later that night, Eleanor stood on the balcony of her high-rise apartment, looking out at the glittering expanse of the city lights. The cool night air felt clean against her skin. For the first time in a long time, she felt no anger, no bitterness, only a profound and quiet tranquility. She had survived the collapse. She had cleared the rubble and designed a new life on a foundation of self-respect and unbreakable truth. And it was beautiful. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more content. We'll see you in the next one.